We are now recording. Thank you, Haley. We are going to go ahead and get started. As I mentioned in our email, we have a very ambitious agenda. We recognize that it is a lot, and we will hold intention that we know we need to give space to important discussions, and we're also trying to move us forward in those areas where we have already had a good deal of discussion, and try to stay focused on the things that will make a difference between a yes or no vote. And I can remind us that we've been collecting suggestions and concerns all along the way about the implementation of various recommendations. And so if those are concerns, I'd ask you to trust that we have taken note of those, and we will be putting those concerns and suggestions in the report, but try to not go into those issues so much today, so that we can keep moving towards our decisions. So I'll go over. I'm not going to go over the agenda, but you can see it in front of you. We do want to do some updating on the contextual items like the timeline. And so I'll ask Haley to go next to the timeline slide or slides. So we are hoping to, as much as we are able to, come to decisions today. We want to put that in a preliminary document to share where we stand on recommendations, so that we can invite public feedback at the upcoming state board public meeting. We're expecting public witnesses will come to weigh in on various things, and these won't be final. We're reserving the right to revisit decisions based on that public testimony and other things that the task force learns in between. But we are trying to put forth as much as we can of this is where we stand on the various proposals. And Haley, if you could go to the next slide. We have adjusted a bit based on OSSI's review needs and schedule. So we are now looking at OSSI coming back to us with their final proposal, and by us I mean the state board, on the July working session. And then the state board does not have a public meeting in July, so our next public meeting would then be in August. So we made that adjustment at the request of OSSI due to their review process. So just as a reminder, we are not going to do any formal rating or ranking of our shared criteria, but we do ask you to just keep those things in mind that we had discussed, making our decisions based on specific criteria, which I think is on the next slide. So we'll get to see those again. We are trying to cover the topics that we didn't get to at our last meeting, to discuss proposed modifications to those topics, remaining topics. And then we are hoping at the end of the meeting to be able to take votes on most, if not all, of those remaining. Or actually, we need to go back to all the proposals, all the OSSI proposals, as well as proposals brought by the task force. And a reminder that the report that the task force shares with the state board and the public will include dissenting voices on each of the proposals. So again, these are the criteria that we discussed as a group. So it is our hope that these are the things that you have in mind as you are making your decisions.
Give everyone just a minute to read those back.
And just briefly, some reminders that there are issues that are adjacent to this work that are very important and related to the work of preparing our students for their post-secondary lives. But some of them might not be directly related to the graduation requirements themselves. That does not mean they are unimportant, but we are trying to focus in on those things that are directly related to the graduation requirements. But you're still welcome to raise and share those issues, but we would ask, at least for this meeting, that we stay focused in on the decisions that we're working towards tonight. And just a reminder, we are limited in our time. We appreciate you taking extra time for a longer meeting, and we are going to try our best to be focused and deliberate in our discussions tonight. Uh, Haley has very kindly taken the step of putting in each slide the page numbers. You'll see on this slide there's a red box in the upper right hand corner. As we go through the various OSSE proposals, Haley has put the page numbers for the corresponding proposal in the red box on that slide, and you can access the PDF in the chat now.
Okay, we have come to our first topic. So I'm going to set a timer. We're hoping this is an easy one. So I'm going to set us a timer for 5 minutes, and we will see. Not all the topics will be 5 minutes, but we're hoping this is an easy one. So start that, and you can all see it.
Yes, and so the reason we believe this will be an easy one is because of the results of the task force survey, the straw poll that we did, that most people are already in support of the proposal to specify that of the 1.5 health PE credits, that one would be PE and a half credit would be to health education. So are there any modifications that anyone would like to put on the table?
Oh, wait.
And I'm realizing that I do not have a very good view at the moment of the gallery. Okay. If you have a proposed modification, you can raise your hand. I am not seeing any hands or modifications, so I think we can safely move on this topic.
Okay. Fantastic. So our next topic is the financial literacy. And we're hoping we can do this one in 10 minutes. We have a little extra time. So I will set us a timer for let's say 12 minutes. Go back to the timer.
All right. So on this one, broad support for financial literacy course at a half credit, but there was a substantial number of people who had modifications in mind. So the one that we um, have gathered from the input to date is to allow flexibility so that math or economics courses could satisfy the requirement for financial literacy. Are there other uh, suggested modifications?
Robert, could we be clear that accepting this means, does accepting this automatically mean that we accept the reduction of science?
Um,
No, it doesn't. We're having a course requirement. Sorry. Good evening. It doesn't. We're taking each one individually. We will, like Representative Henderson said, vote at the end. Um, and we will talk through what the implications of the decisions we've made result in their totality. So I would not say it automatically means the reduction in science, but I think that's a conversation we have at the end with the total number of credits.
So some of the modifications people had made suggested before were just allowing flexibility to include the standards for financial literacy in a math or economics course. That was the only suggestion we had from the survey.
So allowing schools to fulfill the courses fulfill that requirement through other courses. Is that right?
Yes, that was one of that was the suggestion that somebody made on the survey.
So when do
Makes
we
sense to
do we
me.
vote on that? Do we vote on that, or do we just say how we feel about that?
um,
How does this work?
so at this moment, we're just adding any possible modifications that we might make, and then at the end, we'll come back and vote on the modifications and then on the proposal itself.
I have a proposed modification on behalf of DC Public Charter Schools. I think one that you already stated was to incorporate the financial literacy standards into math, economics, or existing course. Excuse me. In addition to that, DC Public Charter Schools would like would instead prefer that LEAs deliver DC's financial literacy standards through these additional pathways. One would be a standalone financial literacy course. The second one was the one that you had already mentioned. And the third option that they're proposing is to incorporate financial literacy standards into a post-secondary focused class advisory period or other course suited to post-secondary planning.
And this is the time for discussion if you have a thought about these modifications or you want to share a reason why you think one is good or bad. We have about 7.5 minutes.
Oh, if this goes in, I would be curious who decides that it's adequately included into a math or economics course? Like how does this work exactly? I mean, I know that's implementation in a way, but I think that would have to be spelled out in terms of if you voted on this as the board, um, you would have to know that.
Representative Thompson, do you have a clarifying remark or okay? Then Laura had her hand up first, so we'll go to her first.
Yeah. Let's comment on just thinking about the implementation and just as people are making their like considerations. I think one of our questions is just who is certified to teach this course? Is it social studies, right? And that's where this would land. Is it math? Like, is it like who is it, right? We often do economics, so it wouldn't maybe be outside of the realm of possibility that we'd end up doing this course. I think it's just something to keep in mind. Like when we take our tests, I don't know that I would say that I'd be trained as a certified social studies teacher to be like, yes, I can do this. Um, versus like someone else. But I also don't know who in the building would necessarily be like, yes, absolutely, I have all the training and feel like I could do this beyond just like you hand me a canned curriculum and I'm kind of like, well, let's go through this today, kiddos. Like versus, like a world history class, I can be like, yeah, I know this content backwards, forwards. Like I can teach this course. So I just think, it's something to consider, like who is going to do it. But the WTU is not against it. It's just we do wonder about the implementation and how that works.
Okay, thank you, Representative Thompson.
Yeah, so I think a few things that I also have shared with the staff of the Charter Alliance as they brought this forward during their public testimony. One, as we've had conversations with both current and recent students, they have overwhelmingly said that they would like a financial literacy course, and they do not feel that they are adequately prepared, and that's been across LEAs. I will note that the financial literacy standards themselves are very new. And so there are a lot of questions around implementation across the city as far as how well they're being implemented with fidelity currently, or at least I would say I have a lot of questions around that. I don't know if we have a comprehensive view. And one of the things that our committee on the state board, when we have more capacity, because we will be done with the graduation requirements, is creating some type of a feedback loop and doing the visits on the recently passed standards. I do. I have also raised the question both to the Charter Alliance and to OSSI about course substitution and why folks are not taking advantage of course substitution if things are already meeting certain requirements and being taught. But I so, like, I see a question from Alexander Ting in the chat. Hey, Alexander, which is a great one. What personal finance count, right? And the question is like, is it aligned to the standards? And are there ways that LEAs who are already teaching this and doing it well can meet this requirement? I think it's a question we should be asking. I'm also very concerned, though, about LEAs and schools where children are not doing this well at all or doing it at all. And so I think for me, that's the trade-off. And I think in our discussions, both I know Sally had a proposal around some of the flexibilities in our conversations with Aussie. I want to be a lot clearer around flexibilities, why LEAs are taking advantage, when they're not taking advantage, and what supports are needed.
Thank you, Dean Ramamurti.
I'm sorry, I have to figure why my reactions are not working. So I put up my hand. But I just wanted to say that I did look up the standards for financial literacy, and there's a lot of them. And I don't think you can cover all of that in a math or an econ course. That's my feeling.
Okay,
So
thank
I
you.
support, a separate course.
Eleni?
Hi. Um, I agree. I think students really overwhelmingly are excited about this course, and I know there's a need. I did like Laura's question about where it would live because in past I've seen it be used as a remedial math space to just prep for CAPE, um, instead of actually using it as financial literacy standards. And so I never thought of it under social studies, but I do wonder if there's a way to specify that it's maybe not a math course, to maybe protect it from being used just as like CAPE prep. Because how when I've seen it at my old school, it was just used to prepare students for CAPE.
All right, thank you, Eleni. Any other comments at this time?
This is a new hand. Uh,
Okay,
Delayed thought, which speaks to both Dean Ramamurti and uh, Eleni's comment. So when we were doing the work around the financial literacy standards that year during the oversight hearings, there were questions raised specifically, and I shared this with the Charter Alliance staff as well, around why, first, if they would be included in the new social studies standards. And the answer OSSI gave at first was yes, and the council determined that that was insufficient, which is one of the reasons that council members and the state board pushed for separate financial literacy standards. Two, when as OSSI was continuously in the spirit of oversight and continuous improvement, and they were asked about this as they were developing the financial literacy standards. There was a full set of testimony about the other subjects. So those things came up as the development happened, and that's why they are separate and not part of um, economics, math, or social studies.
Okay, we were close to time on that one. I do see another hand raised, co-chairs.
quickly, Clara.
Great. Just to say that since we have the standards and one of the goals is flexibility, I just would encourage us, like if an LEA or a school does come up with some interdisciplinary or some way to fit it in, that we should allow for that rather than blocking that off, just because as long as the standards are met. So I would be in favor of allowing for flexibility, creativity to meet those requirements.
All right, thank you, Clara. And I see Tanya has put some links in the chat as well. All right, the next topic, which is on pages 16 and 17 of the OSSI proposal, is the proposed career preparation course of half credit. You can see the breakdown of our straw poll and the modification that emerged from that is one suggestion to combine career prep with the post-secondary touch points that have been proposed and not as a standalone course. Are there other proposed modifications on this proposal? Question mark.
Would that mean it's no longer credit bearing?
Under that proposed modification?
Yeah.
I do not know. Do not recall who made that
I think
suggestion.
it could be a requirement that schools have to do it, but not necessarily a 0.5 credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to Tanya's point, so that it wouldn't be just kind of that it would be actually incorporated into a student's life in high school rather than sort of a checkbox.
Thank you, Clara. And Kathy?
I'm not fond of this one. I would like to either see, propose that it either be an elective that offers the flexibility or that it become a half credit for science so that we don't have to cut a whole credit for science.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Christy?
Yes, so I guess this serves as a modification or proposed modification or alternative idea. And I'm sure it's captured in the survey. However, DC Public Charter Schools believe that instead, LEA should ensure that all students have the following three career preparation experiences and give LEAs flexibility in how those experiences are delivered. So the first suggestion is to have interest inventory in which students take a survey, such as career interest survey or a career interest survey, excuse me, that helps them better understand career paths that interest them and the post-secondary pathways they may choose to pursue. The second one is planning touch points. So to increase planning touch points to three. And then also in addition to that, the third portion of that is, or recommendation or proposal, excuse me, is around post-secondary exploration. To the extent that students receive exposure to post-secondary pathways that help expand their understanding a bit better and expand their options and their understanding of the options. For example, I guess like a standalone career preparation course or career preparation lessons during an advisory period.
Could you repeat the part about the touch points?
Yeah. So DC Public Charter Schools are proposing to increase post-secondary planning touch points to three.
That's a proposal that we will be discussing in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christy and Yvette.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is a modification, but just in looking at the way this is proposed, and it talks about the fact that kids will be exposed to information technology, media, literacy, and DC has a lot of CTE programs that specifically offer certain areas like information technology and even engineering and some of the other ones. And the why it was proposed, they talk about CTE being a reason for having this for all students. So my only concern is this flexible enough so that if you're already in a CTE program that covers a lot of what's in the career preparation already, do you still have to take an additional course? That I feel like I agree with the other folks that there should be some flexibility in how this is actually implemented.
Thanks, Yvette. I think part of the issue there is that we don't unlike with financial literacy, we do not have career prep standards already. So it's there's not a there in the same way of what is covered or not in this course. Tanya.
Thank you. So, just going along with a lot of what the folks are saying in the chat, career preparation happens in so many different ways through an amalgamation of experiences and can't just be boiled down to, a zero point 0.5 credit class. And to Kathy's point and some other folks, it would be just a really big shame if a student couldn't take an internship because they had to make this course to meet the graduation requirements. So, I definitely would agree with not making it required. I think allowing LEAs the flexibility between post-secondary touch points and a potential course. I know that DCPS, for example, has a required course before a student takes an internship, but there's flexibility in how it's done in order to find out the sequence of the student's preparation for career experiences. And so I think it gets to the larger point of the fact that a lot of these proposals are just standalone and they don't acknowledge the fact that a student's experience of career preparation builds through their high school and it needs to make sense with each other. And that's the secondary point, which is that this course doesn't seem to speak to the other post-secondary touch point requirements. So definitely would not agree with requiring it.
Thank you, Tanya. Anyone else who wants to propose a modification or discuss? I see Christina's hand. Christina.
Hey everyone. Trying to follow along. I'm sorry if this has been said already, but
You just muted yourself.
I just
Thank you.
muted myself. Yeah, my bad. I am team requirement because I have had firsthand experiences of the exposure gap to their career prep conversations. And so I put an example in the chat. There are very different conversations happening in school communities, and a lot of it appears to be based on, if it's a low performing school, why are we having these career prep conversations? Because we're so focused on closing the academic gaps. Whereas schools west of the river, uptown, are having these conversations starting in middle school, very intentional conversations in middle school, because kids are already on a pathway just with the more exposure to advanced coursework and all of those things. So like there's an exposure gap. There's a very real exposure gap. I don't think the half credit is a perfect fix, but again, even the exposure to it, just the conversation, I'm hearing like it makes sense to me that there's a mix of pathways to get there, but how do we close this exposure gap to ensure that every secondary school, it really, in my opinion, based on the way DC operates with this high school application process, that career prep exposure has to start in middle school. So in my mind, in a way, this requirement seems like maybe it's impacting more of the school communities that don't do it yet. And it'll just be a lot easier for the school communities and LEAs where it's just already embedded to what they offer and expose their student bodies to. I just genuinely believe we have to lock in, though, that every single LEA has to begin this exposure, this career prep, much earlier than what is happening in some school communities. So I guess for me, that makes me land on the required.
Can I ask you if you feel like the exposure gap could be addressed through the touch points proposal? Or do you see that as not not a viable path for that exposure?
Clarifying question.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying the touch points are a requirement, right?
Well, we haven't decided that yet, but that's on
Okay,
the
so
table.
I'm still like, I am team requirement of the touch points or credit must be present to ensure that the number of LEAs not already naturally intrinsically doing this work and creating this exposure, that they are required to make it happen. I know that there were conversations at the last meeting about, with the multiple touch points means you have to have more staffing to make it happen more consistently, but like, yeah, either way, I'm team requirement in terms of closing that exposure gap.
All right, thank you, Christina. Clara?
Thanks, Christina. Just to build on what you were saying, I think the OSSI proposal is that every student has to have the 3 touch points and graduate with a personalized post-secondary plan. So I wonder if maybe that could get at the every student needs to have good exposure, good planning, et cetera. Obviously, implementation matters in a credit or the advising, but I wonder if that maybe could get at that, plus some other ways to get the career exposure, like an internship, which has been in the chat. So I think for me, at least, I think that the more ways to get at that good goal is more appealing, because I think it would benefit students more.
Dean Ramamurti, are you on? Could you explain your comment?
Yeah, my reasoning is that when a student completes high school, they choose the path. They either go on to college, or if they're going on to, into work-based program. So why not just have one space where both are discussed, so students can get an understanding of the different options and the benefits of that? I don't see splitting the post-secondary plan and the career prep.
All right, thank you. I see Haley has captured that. I think the hand up from Christina is legacy hand. Anyone else who wishes to put something on the table? All right, thank you all. We can move now to the next topic.
Okay. You go ahead and this one is the capstone project, and I'll get our timer up here in a second.
All right, so the capstone proposal we have discussed at past meetings, and can you go to the next slide? Really?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's a little slow.
No problem. So this was the straw poll results. We had half not supporting this, with the most common suggestion being to make it optional. Are there other modifications that members would like to propose?
Wait, we do have more information for this one first.
Oh, apologies. We did get some info from the Education Research Collaborative, which you can see before you, mainly that there is not a lot of research on capstones in the high school setting. And we have heard a lot of testimony and feedback about what would be required in terms of work from staff and teachers to do this capstone project well. If you'll recall, we had guests from BASIS who talked about how they implement the capstone there. And you can see at the end there, Massachusetts is considering a capstone as a graduation requirement, but have more of an assessment and demonstration of mastery approach than the approach that Aussie has mapped out as a longer scale project at the end of a student's career. So is that it, Haley, for that?
No, one more.
No, more. Okay. Thank you, Haley. Yes. So we did seek some clarification from Aussie about, we have talked a little bit about the possibility of the capstone being included as an endorsement, and we will come back to, we talked about endorsements at the last meeting. But the framework that Aussie was using as they considered endorsements was, with the exception of the sealed by literacy, they were thinking of endorsements as being tied to a sequence of coursework. And so that is incongruous with the capstone as they have proposed it, which is not to say that we as a task force can't recommend it as an endorsement, but we did want to provide that context for how Aussie had been considering what an endorsement would look like. All right, and I think that is the last bit of extra information we have, so we can start with discussion with Kathy.
Oh, thank you. I think one of the issues with this is when we make a requirement that it's not tied to credit, it means it's a requirement of the student, but not of the school to provide it. And so I think these are really tricky. It's kind of what happened with community service. There's no staffing or budget. It is just, we're saying to the student, you have to do this in order to graduate, but there is no way that we have attached a way for them to do it. So I I don't think this is appropriate at this point. I mean, I think things like a capstone can be attached to different courses. There's lots of ways it can happen, but I don't think this way is fair to the students or to the schools. And so, yeah, I don't. It's like a concept instead of something that is workable.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Other comments? I will add that we received some feedback from John Alfuth about the capstone proposal and kind of outlining ways to support schools that may want to pursue it. Just for your knowledge that information is in the Dropbox if you'd like to consult with that. Eleni.
Does it have to be non-credit bearing? Or if schools choose to do this endorsement, it could be like a course with credits attached?
Yeah, my understanding is that OSSI was not overly prescriptive, but that it could happen in conjunction with a credit-bearing course. It just didn't really spell out where it would take place. It could be with a credit-bearing course, but might not be. That wasn't clear.
I think a good proposal for OSSI would be to do a little more research where this is actually happening already, because it is happening in so many courses and schools, and create a better outline or just more clarity around what they're looking for and what this would look like. Since it is something that's happening, like as a capstone teacher, like it's not like this new concept. Schools are doing it. So it just seems extremely vague the way it's like being proposed.
Thank you, Eleni. Christy?
Yes. So as we're on the topic in talking about supports, the ask of OSSI in this process around implementation and this concept or idea of it being optional, DC Public Charter Schools ask OSSI to convene stakeholders, provide guidance, supports, as well as financial incentives to schools who choose, if it is optional to choose to innovate and create these opportunities, in alignment with like the capstone projects. So when we're thinking about implementation, I think something that's top of mind is having the finances and the resources to do so.
All right, thank you. That's something we can include in our implementation recommendations, even if we ultimately vote against making it a requirement. Anyone else? Sally, I see your real hand.
Yeah, I can't find my wave hand thing. Just a couple of thoughts. I completely agree with Kathy's remarks. So I do not think as great as capstones can be, I don't think they can or should be mandated or a requirement. But I had a couple of thoughts. One is I did talk to John Alfuth about sort of his comments on this. And I do think it would really be nice if OSSI, if we want to do this and we want to get more schools to offer it, it really would be nice for OSSI to develop a plan so that those who are doing it can share best practices with others and really help schools get these programs started in the right way. So by not making it a requirement doesn't need to say it's not important. I just think we need to do more of this as a city when we see kind of best practices that we would like to see implemented to kind of help each other. Secondly, I've sent messages before. This is not really in the form of a proposal, but I personally am very enamored with what Virginia does in, I think, requiring their students to do presentations at different points in their K through 12 careers, where students have to share how what they have learned ties back to the graduate profile. So in a sense, they're in charge of their own learning. It's not a real heavy lift like a capstone project. It does something else, but is a way for students and teachers to see how students are taking control of their learning and understanding how they are progressing. So I just think people should take a look at that. If this is not recommended, that might be just something that is sort of put into this, especially with the new graduate profile. And lastly, I just have to say, as someone who is a big fan of Seal of Biliteracy, I do think we have to be careful of thinking about every special thing as maybe an endorsement, because I can sort of see students who are going to schools with more resources have more chances to get endorsements. And those advantages pile on each other, where students in some schools may have a harder time getting any endorsement just because of what is offered at the school. So I just feel like with capstone, I'm not really in favor. I would have to be persuaded to be in favor of doing a capstone and getting an endorsement for it. So it's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Sally. Other discussion?
I knew we had making it an endorsement, a suggestion from the survey. Is anyone still suggesting that now? Because I don't have that on our slide, but I want to capture that if someone does still want to offer that. I see Satara has her hand raised.
Satara.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay. I'm glad y'all can hear me. I'm finally out of the metro.
Me too.
But I wanted to say I don't support it as an endorsement opportunity. I think that as someone currently doing a capstone project, it is a massive resource trade-off, especially on staff. Like the only reason our capstone projects in my school are going well is because of the support of staff in dedicating hours, depending on how many students they've taken on, of their day to teach us how to build a resume and how to find an off-campus internship and how to do research. And I think that I completely agree with Ms. Kathy. I think without having resources allocated in order to implement this, it's very difficult if it's just made as a requirement for students to do without any sort of support.
Thank you, Satara. All right, I'm not seeing any more hands. So we can go to the next topic.
Yep. Next is post-secondary planning. Let me get a timer up.
Representative Thompson, if you are ready, I'd like to pass it to you for a bit, and I can take it back when you're ready.
Happy to.
Thank you.
Graduation requirements are a relay race. All right, so recommendations on the post-secondary plan. The current proposal from OSSI is students must develop a graduation plan, pacing the courses they would like to complete. OSSI is recommending that they have at least 3 post-secondary planning touch points. I do want to lift up that we were able to find in the OSSI proposal specific language on who they are considering an advisor. Thank you, Haley, for doing some digging there. Specifically, advisor based on the OSSI proposal are counted as counselors, career and technical education staff, teachers, or administrators. And right now, the touch points begin in ninth grade and they include, at minimum, 11th and 12th grade. Um, I don't think we have any questions. We can go to the next slide to see, start to talk about any modifications or alternative proposals. So common suggestions we heard were adding 10th grade as a touch point to make it a total of 4 touch points, adding more touch points per year, and then again, specifying counselors over advisors. Are there other things people want to put on the table? Okay. If there is nothing else people want to put on the table, are there of that list or are there things people want to discuss about this? I guess first the multiple touch points. Do people want to stay with the 3 at ninth and then 11th and 12th? Or do folks want a different number of touch points?
I think 3 should be the bare minimum, like the absolute bare minimum. And I'm actually more in favor of more, but 1 annually does make sense. So adding 10th makes sense.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
So I agree with the annually, making it more specific that it is something that happens annually.
Okay, I think that was Christina. I'm just gonna ask folks, I hope that's right. I'm just gonna ask folks to raise their hand because it helps me track and it helps Haley with taking the notes. So I'm gonna go to Bridget because I see her hand, and then I think I see Yvette's as well.
Thank you so much. I have a couple of concerns regarding, I do agree, annually makes sense, but annually, um, in theory, counselors are checking in with students annually based on the events of a student's life cycle. So most students take testing annually, and the results of that testing should inform the situation that a student is in. So obviously you want to counsel them in ninth grade to prepare them for these are the things you need to be ready for in 10th grade. In 10th grade, the vast majority of DC students take the PSAT, so those scores can inform counseling that comes after that. By 11th grade, students need to be counseled to make sure they're being prepared to do whatever it is that they decide to do, whether it's some sort of career technical testing or advanced work, or if they're taking the PSAT or the SAT in 11th grade in preparation for college learning. If there are going to be an annual touch point, the annual touch point should also have some sort of specific dialogue, or there should be some sort of framework determined or established to make sure that students are getting the right information at the right stage of their high school career.
Okay, I'm coming to Yvette.
So I was just gonna kind of reiterate if we're saying annual, then that would also include a 10th grade touch point. The current proposal does not have a 10th grade touch point, and I actually think that's a very important touch point because the students are going into the 11th and 12th grade. Again, everything that Bridget said, I feel like there's a real value to having that added in.
Okay. Tanya, I'm not sure if your hand is up. I think it's because of your background, but I think you are in my queue. So I have Tanya, Kathy, and then I'm going to read a couple comments from the chat.
I do have my hand up. Thank you. So I think most of my comments are about implementation, but I think one additional recommendation to add is that I think OSSI at the very least should crosswalk the experience of the post-secondary touch points with, to everyone's point, what touch points they have with their counselors and how that is going to interact with their course choices and then additional CTE and all those things. Because I think right now there's not a lot of clarity on the experience of the touch points as they go through their progression of high school. And so then that gets really to the implementation of it. So it would be really troublesome if a software was just purchased and then boxes were checked for students to complete touch points. And so I think there just really needs to be aligned guidance on the where the advisors are getting critical information for these post-secondary touch points, how it's being refreshed so that they have the most career connected information, and then how that's being implemented with the student. So not just, I'm sitting through a like 30-minute online video, but I'm having a conversation. I'm, doing these XYZ things. So that, implementation really needs to be thought about very clearly. And so I think there's a lot to think about in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Kathy?
Oh, thanks. I see that what's required is a graduation plan. It sounds like these, I agree with annually, and it sounds like we're talking about through this process, there's a a postgraduate plan. And I'm wondering for those in the schools, if there actually is a format where every student has a plan to graduate from high school. And are we talking about through these touch points? And I really think the comments on implementation are apt, that it can't just be a check the boxes thing. Are we talking about each student will have a post-secondary plan? And is there a format for that? And what does that look like? So I guess I'm in agreement with more specifics on implementation with requiring, conversation and also, it's your graduation plan should be informing what you're going to do as you change, as you get older, your plans for what you do afterwards.
Kathy, since we're taking notes, is it okay instead of framing framing it as a question, would it be fair to say that you would like to see those things? Like you would like to see, instead of our schools doing it currently, we would like
Sure,
to see.
you could say the graduation plan gives way to a post-secondary plan that is built during this process of the touch points.
Okay. I see Representative Johnson Law, and I do need to catch up with a couple comments in the chat. Representative Johnson Law, and then I'm going to read the comments. I don't see any other hands.
Thanks, Representative Thompson. Maybe I'm a little ambitious here, but when I think about a plan, I think about like first, middle, end. And so for me, when we said 3, I was thinking about maybe like 3 times a year, right? Like you develop a plan, right? Like you have that beginning touch point, and then okay, as we're going along with your courses, let's have like a middle touch point, and then of course like we're approaching end of school year. And in my mind, I was thinking that was like happening ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and of course 12th grade as they're exiting. Is that too ambitious? But you can't just talk to somebody about a post-secondary plan like once a year. Isn't this something that should be a little more intricate as you're matriculating through high school? Because the Bray's in ninth grade, and I feel like I talk about her post-secondary plan more than 3 times a year, and she's in ninth grade, trying to fit like literally, and parents are trying to figure it out. And I'm thinking about our families here in Ward 8 who might need a little bit more touch point. You know what I mean? And so I guess my proposal would be like, yes, to have a physical plan, but can the touch point be, okay, let's have 3 touch points in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the year? with whoever the advisor, or if is it a team of advisors? And maybe we shouldn't say advisor. Maybe it needs to be a team of advisors, so that way it's not falling on one person. I'm kind of thinking about like this, like from an IEP standpoint, and kind of like implementing that like towards all of our students. Because I meet with the, yes, I meet with the team, but we have way more touch points in the year. And so if we kind of use that model, all of our babies, then, I mean, again, if y'all think I'm completely off, then okay, but it just seems, yeah.
Okay. Uh, so I hear, uh, are you suggesting what, 2, 3 touch points per year?
Yes.
Okay. Because Haley is capturing. I'm gonna catch up with the comments in the chat. Then I see a hand from Bridget. So, and we have less than 9 minutes left on this particular one. Um, so I see a few comments agreeing with annually from Kathy and Christy. I also see some language from Christy that says all high school students have 3 post-secondary planning. Wait a minute, things are moving. Planning touch points with an advisor or other qualified staff member. Can the language be switched to meeting or conversation instead of touch point? When I see the word can, are we able to? We are able to, if that's the recommendation folks want to make. We could suggest that. Regarding Tanya's comment, and this is from Christina, is this where we propose a connection to career prep course credit to make sure, yes, this could be part of that conversation as far as modifications, Christina. Bridget, Kathy makes a great point. A student needs guidance throughout their high school career that leads to post-secondary planning and success. Christy is saying she agrees that with Elaine's idea. Oh, sorry. Yes, I think that's a good idea, Elaine. Yes. Are we assuming touch point is synonymous with meeting? So, okay. Support for the language change. I think the question on the word touch point is well taken. Okay. So we see some support for the language change. All right. I'm going to come to Bridget and ask, and it sounds like we're going to discuss the career and prep. Bridget, is this on the connection to career and prep? Is this a different comment?
My comment actually was in response to Dr. Johnson Law.
Hmm.
Um, and it also speaks to the to the numerous questions around my son just wrecked my husband's car.
I'm so sorry.
Not bad, but he's gonna get in trouble. Um, my concern is around the inequity as well as the number of touch points. So, Dr. Johnson Law, I was at a charter school in DC, and it really depends on the interest and activity of the student. So, sometime if a
Mhm.
student showed at ninth grade that they were very interested in college planning and career. I had touch points and conversations with students from ninth grade multiple times through 12th grade, uh, just numerous. And then there were other students who I had few conversations with, and it was really based on the student's own academic ambition. I did have a one-time, probably over an hour, meeting with every 11th grade student in between the summer before they started 12th grade. And I will tell you, the equity piece really concerns me because I
Mhm.
feel like right now a lot of the students in charter schools are getting that's a part of their makeup, their college prep programs or whatever kind of programs that they are. But those programs do include an advisor, an advisory role. They're seeing their advisor. I know at Capital City, our students are their advisor every day. And so they're constantly being advised just on daily academic goals, on quarterly academic goals. Let's look at your grades. Let's look at your attendance, like those things that kind of, to stay with them throughout their high school career. And as they get closer to 11th and 12th grade is when they spend more time with the actual college and career advisors, but they're advisors throughout. And my concern throughout has been just the inequity and the amount of information and knowledge. So when you worry about that, that means that OSCE will need to provide guidelines or a framework to make sure that students are getting similar access to similar information. And right now, it requires just a heavy personal touch. And I don't know that schools are staffed in a way that they can provide. They're not the students who are lighting the building on fire. And so I'm concerned about equity. I'm just concerned about, the schools that have the access will keep doing it, and the schools who don't do it will do the minimum, and the students won't be better off as a result.
Okay. Uh, Appreciate you lifting that implementation question and equity question up. For the last 4 minutes, I'm gonna push us for folks who wanted to talk about the connection to the career prep course for that to be voiced here. Unless we no longer feel that is something that we need to wade into. Kathy.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how it gets phrased, but because we are talking about this not only being their high school graduation plan, but it's leading to what they're going to do afterwards. So I think I would like to see it included here instead of as a separate course. Or this is where at least one place it should live. So that in the conversations or the discussions or whatever word is chosen, that this is where it's not just career, it's post-secondary, which includes career exposure, but it has to also, you're trying to tie these to career. Isn't career, it's just career prep, that other course. When I've been involved with those courses, they write both resumes and college applications. It's kind of like future prep, like encouraging students to think about their future. So I don't know whether you want to call it post-secondary preparation or career and college prep, but I think that is what we're looking at. It is not just how you get through the next day, it's trying to help them have a sense of their future.
Okay. With 2 minutes left, does anyone disagree with any other thoughts about the connection, or does anyone disagree with expanding the language from career prep to maybe post-secondary or some other
Opportunity, somebody, I think that's City Bridge or something, language that's
yeah,
about the future.
some more expansive language? Christina.
Yeah, I just want to continue advocating for that shift in language in that, like when Kathy framed it as like future planning, post-secondary, I think there needs to be room for this element of, in a way, it is life planning. And what I'm thinking about is like, nobody's guaranteed a job out of high school. Nobody's guaranteed a job out of college. And so this post-secondary preparation that's happening goes beyond just once you get to the next step, helping students to explore, like, failure is a part of this journey. And so like the post-secondary, yeah, it's just more than getting them to that first job or getting them to college to get a degree. And I think that would reflect more upon this age of technology that we live in and societal shifts we've seen, AI, all those different things. Like the landscape is very different for college and career readiness for our youth now.
All right. Perfect timing. Um, I will lift up a couple things in the chat, and if and hopefully I think move us to the Next one. Um, let me see where I need to pick up. Um, Kathy makes a great point. Student needs guidance throughout their high school career and leads toward post-secondary planning and success. I think that is a good idea, Eleni. Are we assuming that touch point is synonymous? Okay, so more support for the language around both support for the different language, more expansive language, and expand and different language than touch point. I think the question on the touch point is well taken. Wait a minute. Sorry, because people are typing, so then it's moving. I'm not telling you to stop typing. I'm just giving you the delay. Um, okay, so I then see uh Tanya, I believe the proposal from Aussie is increasing the amount of touch points required, not creating a separate process. Yes, to it should be college and career prep. I feel you, Bridget, inequity is real. That's why I was initially concerned about Ward 8 schools and at least the students furthest from opportunity. Okay, more, give them ensure, more ways to ensure to give them the touch points. Um, Eleni, twice in 11th would be nice. How will these touch points be monitored or reported? I don't have the answer to that. We can question give that to Aussie. From someone who's been very heartbroken to see seniors crying. I'm so sorry. Don't know. I will co-sign the equity concerns. Okay. Dan Davis, after hearing Bridget, I think a college and career prep should be required and the post-secondary plan should live there. And this course needs to happen before the completion of 10th grade. So Dan is putting on the table, maybe go back and look at keeping it for that reason and to happen ninth or 10th grade year. Uh, I monitoring question again from Representative Johnson Law, and then Clara Compact 2043 is working on advising, so they may have good reps for implementation here. Thank you for lifting that up. They are working on a landscape scanning tools, and we don't know yet, as Haley has confirmed, the oversight for plans. I
I was just
think.
saying this is basically just an extension of their current requirement for post-secondary planning. So I would imagine it's in line with whatever oversight they do currently. I don't know what that is.
Mhm. All right. So Aussie, we're waiting on Christy and Victoria to join us. So we have two options. We can take a break now, early, 10-minute break, or we can go to Bridget uh, or Sally, Bridget and Sally, and take a break after that, and then dig into the sped stuff. Do folks feel strongly? Do we want to keep powering through? It's 6:18. No one has said
If
anything.
that helps us end by 8, I'd vote maybe to keep going, but it's up to you all.
Yeah, I would also say being on Zoom, if I needed to take a break, I've done it. So I think we're good. We should keep going.
All right, I like that answer. Let's keep going. Um,
Okay.
we're gonna go then to the other proposals. And Haley, remind me the timing on these, given.
We have allowed 20 minutes for other proposals, so you need to be very concise about, I'll collect bullet points of kind of the summary of what you're proposing. And we have a little bit of time for discussion and questions. Hopefully everybody has reviewed these. These have both been in Dropbox since before our last meeting.
And I want to say out loud, I believe these are 20 minutes total.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I don't know. I'm assuming that we're gonna do just Bridget first and then Sally. Um, Given it's 20 minutes total, I'm gonna try to do 10 and 10 in all fairness. So where did Bridget go?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. Hey, Bridget, you moved around
I,
on my screen.
oh, I'm sorry. I can be really quick with mine. Thank you, everyone, if you've had time to read it. I didn't realize it was going to be public knowledge. I might have written it a little bit better. But basically, whoever sent the quote about San Francisco lowering the ceiling and raising the floor, I really like, I literally have had that on my wall all week at work. I am proposing an advanced studies diploma for a couple of reasons. One of the objectives stated in the OSSI high school transformation, it was about aligning better with our neighbors, Virginia and Maryland, and all the counties in the surrounding areas have an advanced studies diploma. I also think for the sake of optics, when this rolls out to parents, it looks like we are lowering the ceiling, like we're dumbing down graduation requirements. However, if we're truly looking out for all students and all students having I'm sorry, all families having an opportunity to see where their child fits in the high school graduation process. If we keep we've all bragged that the standards are the hardest in the country, so keep them. So if we keep the current standards that we have, the only thing and I would say keep the standards, keep the 100 community service hours, and maybe add a third year of the world language, that would be aligned with the advanced studies diplomas around the country. And that includes the math beyond algebra 2, the standards as they are. And what that does is it lets all students know that you have been on a path for advanced study the whole time. And so when we're presenting it to any family at so first, DC should serve all families, and not all families have an IEP. I know some students need extra help, but some students are capable of extraordinary academic work. And so by adding advanced studies diploma, we are putting forth equity in a way that is often forgotten, and that we're not serving our highest performing students. And what having the advanced diploma also does is it allows families and students to see themselves, to challenge themselves. By lowering requirements, that's fine. And it provides a standard diploma option, which is standard across the city, I'm sorry, across the region. But also having the advanced studies diploma that isn't that different than what they've been doing, it might encourage more students to endeavor to take the advanced coursework, which will better prepare them for college and career. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Any questions for Bridget? Christina.
Hi, Bridget. I have a question. Thank you for sharing that. I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly in that you're proposing an advanced studies diploma. So the same way they've proposed like the practical studies diploma. What I'm hearing is like, let's propose an advanced studies diploma instead of a practical studies diploma.
No, not
But
instead.
not in addition to. So 3 different diplomas is what I'm hearing.
That's what we have here in Virginia. My children in Virginia have the opportunity to get an advanced studies diploma. They can get a standard diploma or they can get a modified diploma. That's the same thing you can get in Montgomery County. You can get an advanced studies diploma, you can get a standard diploma or a modified diploma. And so,
okay.
Yeah. So I'm saying in the same way that we are supporting students on one end, which I think is very, very important. I don't want to discount it, but I also want to make sure that we are still encouraging our students who have the ability level to seek as much excellence as they can.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Representative Henderson.
So I have a question that is the same as what Dean Ramamurti put in. How do you see this in relation to the proposed advanced studies endorsement? What is different about what you're proposing? And then another question is, when you say that the OSSI proposal is lowering standards, specifically referring to, I heard you mention the reduced volunteer hours. What else are you specifically seeing that is lowering the standards?
So what's in the current standard is reduced service hours, reduced math requirement, and reduced science requirement. And so the advanced studies diploma, in my mind, is this diploma that kids are already able to take, or the current diploma that students are working toward before this change, with the only addition would be 1 additional year of world language. Hi, Vet.
Hi. Okay, okay, so that helped, the last statement you made helped clarify um um that it's sort of relative to what you currently have, what the current standards are that are now being changed, but you would add the language. And then I just had a question about, I know you had mentioned IEPs, and maybe I didn't hear it, but I'm assuming that whether or not a student is on an IEP or not doesn't really matter if they can get an advanced diploma. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I
Right,
didn't,
because
didn't mishear that. Okay.
we also know that students with IEPs have IEPs based on individual ability levels. So
Exactly.
depending on what their, my son my son had an IEP. He's a doctor now. He didn't get an advanced studies diploma because he was terrible at world languages. So that wasn't required for his college graduation. So he got a standard diploma and he went to college and he went to grad school and he's out of both now and he's doing just great. So it's not to say that the standard diploma is less, but for those students who are going to seek to go to competitive colleges, what is being proposed for the standard diploma is going to basically discount them off the break. Like they can't even be considered for it. And if they're not getting advised properly at a younger grade, they're going to not be available. They're not going to be able to apply to those selective colleges anyway. So at least having it as an option that any student can go to, can seek those advanced studies, the advanced studies diploma, those students are going to be better aligned to apply to more competitive colleges for the ones that's what they want. And again, this is just providing another option for students.
Okay, I'm gonna push us to move a little bit more
Okay,
quickly,
I'll talk less.
because I don't, because I want to remind us, and we can add an additional 2 minutes for my little speech, which I hope will save us many more minutes in the long run. If it's a clarifying question, good. If it is a different perspective, good. Um, we are not, yeah, because we have so much to move through. If you are like, I agree with what the person said, give me a thumbs up because we can capture it, put it in the chat because we can capture it. But the places where we have the most space between us is what we really want to delve into. And so I just want to note that. I'm going to go to Dr. Johnson Law.
Thanks, Representative Thompson. Bridget, is the modified diploma the one you were talking about in Maryland? Is that recognized under ESSA as equivalent to the standard diploma, or is this something else?
So I know more about Virginia than I do Maryland, but I know in Virginia, the modified diploma uh, it is accepted at community college, but students still have to take a placement test.
Okay, the applied studies one?
The applied studies in Virginia, yes.
Got it. And then they have the standard diploma, and then they have their
Right,
advanced.
the advanced
Got
studies
it.
diploma.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I'm
And
gonna
my
come.
son with the advanced studies diploma went to Georgetown, but he wouldn't have gotten in Georgetown with the standard diploma.
I'm gonna
Got
come
it.
to Kathy and then I'm gonna go to Sally. I know Sally gave me her actual hand and not her virtual hand, but I did see it.
Okay, great. Bridget, I'm concerned about what's required will be offered. So does this include that every school will offer the courses that you need in order to get an advanced studies diploma? So that's where the tension is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, is this written up as such that it's again, how do we require that every student has access to get an advanced studies diploma? How does your proposal do that?
So the requirements are not significantly different than they're not different than what's currently required, with the exception of a third year of world language. And I think that's a part of school choice. I think all DCPS schools will offer all of these things because they're very standard. And most charter schools already offer all of this. But if a student is seeking an advanced studies diploma, someone put in the chat like Duke and all the charters, they all have extra requirements that they require above and beyond the standard diploma. And so for many schools, this won't be a change. The advanced diploma is primarily what they offer. The only difference would be the third year of world language.
Yeah, so it's optional. We're putting in something that's optional to get an advanced
That
studies
is,
diploma. But
well,
this is the core, like
mhm.
many do. But when you choose your school, you have to know you're choosing a school that offers all of this because they don't all offer all of this.
The third year of world language is not really that difficult because a lot of schools are offering a high school first year of world language in middle school, much like algebra. And so a significant number of the high schools offer more than level one and two of world language.
Maybe, so I'm gonna maybe say it
Done.
differently. I'm also gonna, I'm sorry, I'm gonna come to Sally, but I'm gonna say, I want to be clear because I'm not so sure I'm hearing the response to Kathy's question.
Mhm.
Kathy is essentially saying, is it option? Are you making it optional for LEAs to award this? Not what do you think schools can reasonably do? Because there could be a world where, yes, someone takes, so for example, right now, if I am fluent in another language, but I don't uh, have a school doesn't offer the syllabi literacy, which is proposed, right? My diploma doesn't say syllabi literacy, even though my school offered languages. So she's asking, are you saying this would be a optional thing for LEAs to offer? Yes or no?
No,
You're saying all LEAs would be required to offer this.
I would like it to be an OSCE recognized diploma path in the same way the other diploma paths are offered. So in the same way that OSCE is
Okay,
that LEAs are required to offer 4 years of English, 4 years of whatever, that this is that all LEAs minimally offer 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 4 years of up to 3 years of world language.
understood. I'm gonna come to Sally. I'm gonna read these last comments in the chat. I'm gonna move us
Mhm.
on because Aussie is here, and we still have a proposal from Sally. So, Sally, would love to hear your comments on this, and then I'm gonna read the comments in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be really brief. I was gonna kind of say what Kathy said, but I'll just add this. I'm probably the only person here who went to high school in DC public schools when we had a track system. I was in the honors track. I went to Wilson High School, and it seemed kind of normal that we had ability grouping, but it was only later that I realized that there were schools that did not offer the honors track. And this, as I said about endorsements, I think we can't leave students out. There are schools that don't offer a third year of a language right now. So they would have to, I'm hearing from your proposal that we would have to, every LEA would have to offer courses that would get students who are interested that advanced diploma. In any case, I don't want to go back there, and I just think we have to be really careful of students in schools, many of whom don't make those choices, honestly, where they go to school, not having the option to get an advanced diploma or any other kind of diploma or endorsement. We just have to be fair. That's how I feel.
Thank you, Sally. I'm gonna lift up other comments in the chat, some of which echo your point. So, Clara, I worry about multiple diplomas because they can lead to tracking rather than lifting the overall boats. Although I support the intent, I wonder if endorsements may help address the need. Eleni notes, if you look at the languages, unfortunately, a lot of DCPS schools are still only offering level one and two. Um, it is a huge equity concern, and students and staff have asked for the ability to offer level three. It should be required by OSCE for schools to offer at least 3 years of the same language. Kathy notes that schools offer many of these because they are currently required to. Um, Christina is agreeing with Eleni on the language offerings. And then Christy notes that Bridget, I will share that if a student takes their first world language in middle school, it may not be transferred and or counted towards the graduation requirements when in high school. However, there are a few charters that require students to learn at least three world language credits, at least three world language credits to be eligible for graduation. And then Bridget is noting that she believes online learning and dual enrollment can alleviate schools offering limited languages. All right. Thank you all for diving into this. Thank you to Haley for keeping up with the comments as far as the alternative proposals and the feedback. If it is okay, Sally, I'm going to shift us to Aussie and then come back to you. Thank you so much for your graciousness and flexibility. So I believe that our Aussie friends have joined us. Hello, hello. I also believe that they have slides because they always come with slides.
You know we do, Representative Thompson.
All
Thank you
right.
for having us, guys. I'm going to share my screen and hope that this works.
Okay, I'm setting a timer for 25 minutes, and that will include their presentation and questions. So you can put questions in the chat or save them until the end, but we're asking that you not interrupt during their presentation.
Yes, I was about to say that. So thank you. What Haley said is the law. Thank you.
All right. The perennial, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. All right. So thank you for having us. I'm Christy Weaver Harris, the policy manager in OSSI's Office of Special Education and the Division of Strategic Funding for School Quality. I'm joined by Victoria Glick, who is our Director of Special Education. Thanks again for having us. I'm going to share some information on the proposed Practical Studies diploma and some federal requirements for diplomas generally. There we go. So you've heard a lot of this spiel from me before, but as a reminder, the Practical Studies Diploma is intended to be an additional diploma option for students with disabilities who can't meet the requirements for the standard diploma, but who want something more rigorous than the certificate. These students may be at risk of dropping out or leaving with a credential that may not support them in pursuing their post-secondary goals. So they are either dropping out or getting a certificate. The Practical Studies Diploma is not for students who can earn a standard diploma. We do not want to be pulling students off of the standard diploma to be working towards this. And our intention here is for the Practical Studies Diploma to prepare students for employment, workforce developing programming, or career training. And all this is intended to be consistent with their post-secondary goals. So this is for students who want to go from high school into job training or employment. And to support students in that, we want them to be able to say yes when they're asked if they have a high school diploma. We want it to be something that keeps students engaged in attending school instead of dropping out, that helps them develop the skills and knowledge that they need to pursue their post-secondary goals, and then lets them leave with a credential that meaningfully communicates what they can do. We also want this to be accepted by employers and appropriate post-secondary programs. And I recognize we have work to do to make that part happen. So you've seen a lot of this slide before. Again, as this data in the red box shows, we have a good number of students who are leaving school with no credential and are reported as dropouts. We've been able to add data from school year 23-24 to data that you've previously seen. And this shows a decrease in the number of dropouts, but that number is still significantly higher than previous years. We're looking at 300 kids that are leaving with no credential and dropping out. And this is the population that we're hoping to specifically target, especially the students who in school years 21 or 22, like 20 to 21 and 21 to 22, maybe would have gotten a diploma, but slipped into this gray box of students who left with no meaningful credential. All right, so I'm going to turn to sharing some information on the federal framework for diplomas that we have to work within. The FAQ that we shared late last night, early this morning with you guys covers a lot of this material. So if you've had a chance to read that document, this will be familiar. And if you haven't had a chance to read it, this should be informative. But a very common question that we've gotten is, why can't the Practical Studies diploma just be turned into a regular or a standard diploma? And this will hopefully help contextualize some of those concerns. So there are two main federal constructs that I'm going to talk about, ESSA and the ACGR. So the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, is the main law for K-12 public education in the United States. It's a large, complex law that makes sure that schools provide quality education for all students. It centralizes states and gives states a central role in how schools account for student achievement. So under ESSA, each state creates a state plan, an education plan, within the established framework of ESSA. And this includes academic standards, statewide testing, plans for improving underperforming schools, and things like the DC school report card. So the school report card stems from ESSA. ESSA also defines many aspects of K-12 education to ensure consistent definitions across federal reporting and across states. And this includes the definition for a regular high school diploma. The adjusted cohort graduation rate, or ACGR, is the way that all states report to the federal government their statewide graduation rate. The ACGR is the number of students who graduate in 4 years with a regular high school diploma divided by the number of students who comprise the adjusted cohort for the graduating class. So that cohort is adjusted. It's established in their first 9th grade year. And then over the 4 years, it's adjusted by adding students who transfer into the cohort and then subtracting students who exit the cohort after the beginning of 9th grade. ACGR is reported for all students in a graduating cohort, so it's not just students with disabilities, but we also report student subgroups, including students with disabilities when we're doing that reporting, and as well as a bunch of other disaggregated data. Okay, ESSA defines a regular high school diploma as the diploma earned by the preponderance of students that's fully aligned with state standards, that is not based on alternate standards. It does not include a diploma equivalent or a lesser credential, and that includes the GED, so our state diploma for GED, or a certificate. So that requires that it be the diploma that most students earn, that it matches state academic standards, which in DC, we have adopted Common Core for English and Math. And we've also established some other state standards for things like financial literacy, right? And like social studies, we have some local state standards on that. That it's not based on alternative academic standards, which I'll get to in a minute. And again, it doesn't include a lesser credential. So one question that comes out of this is that part of the requirements are that a diploma is fully aligned to state standards. So what does it mean to be fully aligned? For a diploma to count as a regular high school diploma, the credits and courses that students are participating in are required to match the state's regular graduation requirements. So just to give you an overview of how this works, standards are adopted by SBOE in collaboration with OSSE. So OSSE develops these in collaboration with input from the public. It's a whole stakeholder engagement process. We propose them to SBOE, and SBOE approves and adopts them. State standards are the goals for instruction, and they say what a student should learn and be able to do. Curriculum, the next stage, is the content of instruction, which is selected by each LEA. We're now in the realm of LEA determines how this works. Curriculum includes like lessons, activities, resources that are used to teach. So it's instructional materials, it's how it's taught in the classroom. And those decisions are made by LEAs and classroom teachers, right? Classroom teachers can also decide how to differentiate instruction to meet the individual needs of students. So that's changing how they teach something, but they're not changing what they are teaching. What they are teaching is the standards. And this is true for both students with disabilities and without disabilities. You can differentiate instruction regardless of a student, whether they have an IEP or not. But specifically for students with disabilities, their IEP team may also identify specific required modifications and accommodations to instruction. And again, that's determined by the IEP team, including the parent. So modifications are changing the curriculum, the assignments, or what you're expecting a student to perform on to match that student's needs. That's essentially changing what they are expected to learn through modifications. Accommodations are the other things that we can provide to students to help them access the general standards. So it's changing how they learn, not what they learn. Just want to be clear about like, what do we mean by fully aligned? It's aligned to our state standards. Now, the practical studies diploma does not meet the ESSA definition of a regular high school diploma because it's not awarded to the preponderance of students. It's not given to the vast majority of students who are earning a diploma, and it's not fully aligned to academic content standards because it contemplates different courses than those that are required for what we have previously been calling the standard diploma or like our regular high school diploma, right? So how could it meet that definition? We'd have to fully align the course requirements to the standard diploma. Course modifications that are currently proposed as part of the practical studies diploma would be limited only to courses that are aligned to state graduation requirements. They're fully aligned to state graduation requirements. Courses that count for the practical studies diploma are intentionally different from the standard diploma because we want students to be selecting courses that'll help them build the skills and knowledge needed to pursue their post-secondary plans like employment or job training. I want to point out also that some of the courses of the standard diploma don't lend themselves to having a specific special education corollary. The content itself is not accessible. And a good example of this is that you won't see a self-contained special education class for something like world languages because you can't modify that content in such a way that makes it more accessible within a self-contained classroom. Aligning the practical studies diploma in this way would reduce flexibility for IEP teams, for students, for parents, and it would risk narrowing the student population for whom the diploma would be appropriate because we would then be asking students to meet essentially the standard diploma requirements. And to give you a little bit of background on this, in our proposal, we used North Carolina's occupational course of study as a reference point. And North Carolina over the last like 15 years has amended their course requirements for the occupational course of study to more fully align to state standards because their accountability team was like, hey, what you're asking of the occupational course, it's one of their pathways to a standard diploma. What you're asking for the occupational course of study is not aligned enough to our state standards. So they are more fully aligning that pathway to state standards. And it has turned into a much more challenging diploma pathway than they originally intended. And they often hear from parents, like, why should we do the occupational course of study when it seems like it is a standard diploma plus 600 or 700 hours of work-based experience. So North Carolina has kind of served as an example for us of the challenges with ensuring that alignment and also the pitfalls of it because they've now ended up with a diploma pathway that is not serving their students in the way that they had originally intended when they created it. So turning to ACGR, again, ACGR is the percentage of public high school freshmen who graduate with a diploma within 4 years. And we utilize ACGR for federal reporting and school accountability purposes. So under ESSA, again, there are 2 diplomas that can count towards ACGR. The regular diploma that I just described and an alternate diploma for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities who participate in the alternate assessment and earn what's called a state-defined alternate diploma. That alternate diploma has to be standards-based and aligned to the state requirements for the regular high school diploma. So it needs to follow kind of a similar credit structure. And I want to be clear that these students are not earning a regular high school diploma. They are earning an alternate diploma, but they can count as graduates for the purposes of ACGR. And as of now, in DC, we do not have a state-defined alternate diploma. So to make the practical studies diploma into an alternate diploma that could count towards ACGR, it would have to be limited to only students that are determined by their IEP team to meet the definition of most significant cognitive disability in order to and do participate in the ALT assessment. So this is the multi-state alternate assessment, or MSAA, or the dynamic learning maps, which is the DLM. Sometimes you'll hear those words, those acronyms. And participation in the alternate assessment is limited by ESSA to no more than 1% of the assessed population. So you'll see that also in our FAQ around this 1%. Technically, ESSA limits states to 1%. If we exceed 1%, we have to explain, provide a justification and explain what we're doing, like why we think that the district needed to exceed 1%. So you do see states that exceed the 1%. It's not like a hard limit on it, but if we exceed the 1%, we kind of have to explain ourselves a little more and implement some measures to make sure that we really do need to exceed that 1%. And this student population, so the student population of most significant cognitive disabilities who participate in the ALT, that's inconsistent with the student population that is contemplated for the practical studies diploma. So it's narrower, it's not consistent with like the student profiles that we've discussed, because we want students who participate in the general statewide assessment to be able to participate in this also, and we want students who don't necessarily meet the specific requirements of most significant cognitive disability to be able to elect to work towards the practical studies diploma also. And also the courses allowed under the practical studies diploma would also need to be based on state standards and aligned to the requirements of the standard diploma, like similar to the requirements. This could again give IEP teams, families, and students less flexibility in selecting courses that they think would help them develop the knowledge and skills that they are looking to gain to pursue their post-secondary goals. So I know it's a lot of technical jargon. I hope it's been helpful in informing your thinking around this idea of why can't the practical studies diploma become a regular diploma. And I just want to reiterate that like OSSE really believes that we have a chance to create something meaningful and helpful for a group of students who want and are capable of and deserve better opportunities after leaving our schools, even if they can't earn a standard diploma, because we do see this population of students who there's a gap for, and we want to be able to fill that gap. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Christina, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, thank you for sharing this information. I did put in the chat. Did you all assemble this presentation after, did you all take any feedback, survey information or anything from community before building this? What information was actually like new in this presentation that would help clarify the purpose of the practical studies diploma? I think is my first question. My other question, this gray box of students with disabilities, did you all what's the number of students in that quote unquote gray box without disabilities? Because it just still remains unclear. This is still a non-GED equivalent. This is still a non-GED equivalent diploma. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, it is still not a GED equivalent diploma, to answer that question. I'm kind of going to go backwards in answering what I'm hearing from your three questions. So it's not an equivalent to a GED diploma. So this gray box, or the gray numbers, this is exclusively students with disabilities. There are no students included in this that are students without disabilities.
Right. I heard that.
Okay. And to your first question, like what is this responsive to? The primary point that we have heard from folks is, why don't you just turn this into a regular high school diploma? We've heard a lot of the other feedback around, there's a bunch of other points that I'm blanking on right now. But we've heard a lot of that, but this is specifically responsive to what would it take to make this a regular high school diploma? And we were asked to provide some clarity around what that would take, because that was the most prominent point of feedback that we had heard.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So Christy, I I I have a question, just two things very directly, I guess, because I think plain language is important. So, one, when we talk about other states, and like Minnesota has come up as another state, um, they're being clear that there's like the language that the public sees, and then like the language that the state agency actually has is different. So if I was to go to Minnesota's website, it looks like they're saying that with modifications, IEP driven diploma is the same as their standard diploma. Um, but it is actually also not an equivalent diploma. Is that correct?
So that is something that I think is a fairly hot topic for debate. Like we have seen the US Department of Education in the last few weeks has released a proposed special education reporting package. It's something they do every 6 years, where as part of the graduation rate, as their part of their proposal for graduation rates is for states to disaggregate the number of students, like if they have a diploma that is specific for students with disabilities, where they're asking for students to do less than what students without disabilities are doing, the US Department of Education is like, tell us more about that, because they are seeing across some of these states where the states have established multiple, what we would consider pathways to a standard diploma, which is similar to what Minnesota had. Like that's what Minnesota has. Their legislature established multiple ways of getting a diploma, and one of those ways is their IEP driven diploma. Now, based on the research that we have looked, like I saw a lot of the same resources that you guys did around this. And I'm not sure whether or how that diploma meets the ESSA definition of a regular high school diploma. It could be that based on their state legislature establishing those requirements as graduation requirements as like one way of being the state standards for graduation, that's how they term that as a regular high school diploma. But we have seen that the Department of Education is interested in seeing more about like states that are doing that and what they are doing with it, because I think that there is a fairly shared confusion around that approach.
So, but currently, not what people might see. Currently, are they equivalent? Yes or no?
Is their IEP diploma equivalent to their to their standard diploma?
Because what I heard you say is they're not actually asking students to do the same things. In some cases, they're lesser. And so currently, are they actually doing what you all are proposing, which is a diploma that's not exactly equivalent, or is it something else?
I think under their interpretations of it, they have created multiple pathways to a regular high school
Mm-mm.
diploma.
I'm asking for your assessment.
Oh, my assessment of what I think they're doing?
Yes.
I think based off of the guidance and the definitions of ESSA, me personally, I'm not saying this on behalf of OSSI, but like my interpretation based off of what the requirements are of ESSA and based off of federal guidance, any credential that has a student do something that is different than the standard requirements for graduation is a lesser credential and should not be counted as a regular high school diploma. And I think that that's what they're doing. Their IEP diploma is a lesser credential than what them sorry, their IEP, I think it's called IEP driven, right? IEP
Yes.
driven diploma. I think that is a lesser than diploma. The other thing to highlight about the Minnesota diploma, and this is part of the reason why I think that, it does not terminate access to FAPE. And access to FAPE is terminated when you graduate with a regular high school diploma, when you age out, or when the IEP team determines that you're no longer eligible. So if you get an IEP driven diploma in Minnesota, you can continue to come back to school and access FAPE, which to
Okay.
me is like one of the main signals of that's not a regular high school diploma.
Last question, and this actually builds on the college employer. Given that or other analysis, like other things you know about this particular diploma track, would you say that employers and colleges see this IEP driven diploma as the same? Because that's another thing that I think is a big consideration for task force members.
Yeah, I will say I don't know about employers. I think we kind of have to sell this to employers, right? That's one of the biggest lifts of this is making sure that employers understand what it is and understand why they should accept it when they ask a student if they have a diploma. For community colleges, you see a variety across programs of what they'll accept. I will say that there's a statement from the Virginia Community College Consortium that they do not accept the Applied Studies diploma for admission to community colleges in Virginia, which our proposal is fairly close to the Applied Studies diploma, or at least partially based off of their approach in Virginia. And what they do in those community colleges instead is they have what's called an ability to benefit assessment, which I would suspect that our students would have to participate in if they're earning a practical studies diploma, except for circumstances where we can forge those relationships and those agreements with to ensure that we have like matriculation agreements so we can forge those relationships with the surrounding community colleges with UDC to make sure that it's being accepted in the way that students need it to be accepted.
Thank you.
Christy,
Oh, go ahead, Haley.
I just wanted to clarify. I think the question that Representative Thompson was asking, so in other states, colleges see, even if it's a pathway to the same diploma, colleges and employers see those, they see a diploma that's got by one of the different pathways differently.
I think so, but it also depends on the like specific requirements of the programs. That's part of the challenge that we have in saying like what we think it will and will not be accepted for is that we can't guarantee what anybody's going to do with this, right? And B, that everyone has such different has such different admissions requirements. There are some colleges that will admit students without a high school diploma, full stop, right? And there are some colleges that will require that ability to benefit assessment. Like it's a variety. I think that for our purposes, students are most likely to have to participate in the ability to benefit assessment in order to access degree granting programs. I think we have a real opportunity to be able to ensure that students who receive this diploma can enroll in either like non-degree granting programs or workforce development programs, both within the district and outside of the district, to be able to get the credentials that they need to move on into employment. And I think that's the real work that has to be done to make sure they can access those programs. If a student is looking to enroll in a degree granting 2 or 4 year college course or college course of study, I think that student is best served by obtaining a standard diploma, not the practical studies diploma.
Thank you. I'm coming to Kathy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this. On the boxes here on the screen, I think students drop out for many reasons. It sounds like in the argument, we're saying that these students wouldn't have dropped out if we had the practical studies diploma. And that seems like a jump because, we don't have on this chart how many students in total have dropped out. And so I just feel the reasoning on it, we should be tighter. If we're trying to figure out how we retain all of these students that have left, I don't think we can make the statement that if we do this practical studies diploma, we would have retained them. So it would be good to have a much broader selection of what would have been needed. That's my comment.
I appreciate that. And I do want to clarify that dropout number does not include students who transferred to general education, who moved out of state, or who reached the maximum age of FAPE. So those students are not considered to have dropped out. So it's not kids who just aged out, right?
Right.
And we have heard from the field that this would at least serve as a partial solution to exactly what you're trying to get at. Like, what is it? Why are students leaving without a credential. And we have heard from the field that like this could at least serve some of those students and help to start filling that gap. But I hear you on the like we gotta get to the root cause, right?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to know the other causes.
Mhm.
Rep. Johnson Law.
Thanks, Representative Thompson. Christy, when you all say like you can't guarantee, right? I'm thinking about like, would UDC take this? Like, have we talked to UDC about this? Because in the Virginia example, you said that the community college does not, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, did you say they do not accept their applied studies diploma?
So what I've seen, no, we have not talked with UDC. What we have found is that colleges don't want to talk until we have something more final to talk about. And that's not just UDC, that's a few other local college programs that we're not interested in entertaining a discussion about this. What we have seen across states is that also states will not say like you can take this and go do this with it, right? Like Virginia in its public uh, materials for parents says things like it may be accepted or it may not be accepted for community college programming. It may not, students who earn the applied studies diploma may not be eligible for federal financial aid. It may not be accepted by the military. States are really hesitant across the board to be able to say like concrete statements about how it can and cannot be accepted. Um, so the Virginia side, there's a consortium of the Virginia community colleges, and they have essentially like an agreement or a policy statement from that consortium that says we don't accept it as a standard diploma for admission, but they do allow students to take the ability to benefit. Like they refer those students instead to ability to benefit because they don't treat it as a regular high school diploma. And I will
Got it.
also say we spoke with an LEA within Virginia. They very thoughtfully approach how they determine who students that will work towards their applied studies diploma program. Um, most of their students actually get the applied studies, I would say half of their students get their applied studies diploma and then come back and work towards a standard diploma that they earn. So Virginia in their approach is really focused on making sure that students are accessing that standard diploma, which I think DC could be served well with doing also, right? Which I think is like a shared goal for all of us is to better help students with disabilities to access the standard diploma. So even in Virginia, where they are seeing students who are earning the applied studies, they're coming back either for just the summer or for like the summer plus a little bit to get the standard diploma. And this specific LEA that we spoke with waits until their senior year to make the determination as best as they can to make the determination that the student would work towards the applied studies diploma. They are currently having challenges with waiting that long because as soon as a student is put on alt assessment, it is clear that they are no longer working towards the primary state standards for education, right? So Virginia is having a challenge with determining in third grade that students are going to be working towards the alt. That immediately takes them off track from earning a standard diploma in Virginia. And I think we are also seeing that, right, in DC, where we're making these decisions about kids way early, and Virginia is trying to be thoughtful about ensuring that those decisions that are happening in third grade are not determining what's happening for a student's trajectory when they're 15, 16, 17, 18.
Got it. That helps because I was just concerned about the like, oh, like not guarantee. And when you think about a very vulnerable population where we're trying to get them to opportunity, but essentially we're saying we can't even really guarantee you that. Like we can't even guarantee that you can actually put on your application that you actually do have a diploma to be able to get a job because according to what you all have said, it's not.
It's not, it is not an equivalent. I don't consider it an equivalent because we're talking about students who are learning different things than what is expected of the standard diploma.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Okay,
I want to be real clear about that for y'all. I'm not trying to hide any balls here. I know that there's been a lot of confusion about it, and I appreciate your continued questions and your continued feedback on this. But I really hope that you're feeling like we're trying to give you some straight answers on this.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's why you are here. I'm going to lift up a couple questions in the chat to make sure they do not get lost. Because of course my thing is moving again. So Eleni, hi Christy, thank you for sharing. Would you be open to also offering this diploma to our SLIFE or newcomer population who may come in over age or at level 1 English level and 16 years old? There are other students who the rationale for this diploma also applies to who do not have an IEP.
Yeah, we've heard that a few times. Like, could we offer this for other students also? We were charged specifically with coming up with a diploma specific for students with disabilities. So I think that's a broader question to be asked of like everyone. That's not necessarily something that has been charged of me.
Okay, so, but it sounds like that is something that could be raised to OSSI.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I heard would OSSI be open to.
Mhm.
Dean Ramamurti asked if you knew the top reasons for the dropout rate, and I'm assuming that's overall and not just the students with disabilities. Like if you could speak to more broadly top reasons students don't complete.
I don't have that data disaggregated to be able to share.
Okay, happy to follow up if that's helpful to for folks to know.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so I think Christina started to ask some of these things, but I'll still read it in case there's anything else that wasn't captured in the dialogue before. So what's the number of students in that gray box without disabilities, which is none? All of them have disabilities. If this is GED equivalent now, is there zero reason for this to be limited to students with disabilities? Okay. Uh, we've heard that part. However, if you are saying we're not pulling out students with disabilities over to practical studies, why don't we pull students out with disabilities up to the standard diploma?
It should have said with disabilities. Why
Oh,
don't we pull
with
students with disabilities up to the standard diploma?
thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we all want to see, right? We want to see more students being accommodated appropriately within their educational environment so that they can access that standard diploma. And I think that's a lot of the work ahead of us too. I think through this entire process, we've kind of dealt with this question of why aren't students graduating? Is it because we're not helping them to access the general curriculum to be able to graduate? Or is it because we're not giving them other options that interest them to graduate, right? And we certainly hear that there's work to be done on both fronts.
Okay. Clarifying question. Did you all create this presentation after receiving feedback questions from task force? I heard Christina's question about is there anything new? Happy to give some context that Representative Henderson and I actually requested OSSI to come because we felt like some things, several questions we were hearing over and over and over again. And so we did request that OSSI join us today. Did OSSI ask Virginia and Maryland what they do for those students in the gray box?
Yeah, we reached out to Virginia and they referred us to one of their LEAs. We have not reached out to Maryland. We did reach out to Virginia, especially because they have that applied studies diploma that we have kind of not modeled this after, but we use it as a reference point for certain. And they referred us to one of their LEAs. The LEA they referred us to was Winchester City. It is a very small LEA. They have 4,000 total students. So it's a real microcosm, but their student populations are fairly similar to ours. They're over 50% English learning students in that LEA. And they were just extremely thoughtful in their approach. And we learned a lot from them about when and how these decisions could be made in terms of what are we deciding for a student's diploma trajectory, right? They were very informative in that. And I think the real answer to your question around what's that specific LEA doing for those students in the gray box? And the answer is they're extremely thoughtful about planning early to make sure that those students are staying on a standard diploma track and being accommodated to access that standard diploma. Like they're very dedicated to keeping students on a standard diploma track until it is absolutely certain that they can no longer work towards a standard diploma.
Okay, I'm gonna note two things as I close out the chat. One, I do see Eleni's hand. Two, we are 14 minutes over. We expected we would be over a bit. We did bank the 10-minute break, you all. And so I'm gonna, if there is nothing else that is a burning, if I don't understand, need to know from Aussie question about this now, because we do have modifications and alternative proposals to consider. I am going to close the line for questions at Eleni. So this is the last call. If there's anything that is like, I need to understand this. I'm going to give that notice now as I close out the chat and then come to Eleni. All right, so Haley noted for us in some states, guidance makes it clear that diplomas from some pathways are still seen differently by colleges, employers, et cetera. And we had a bit of that discussion. We also talked about UDC. Uh, Representative Johnson Law noted that you can still get a standard diploma if you need to take longer time under FAPE as well. We also had the conversation about Virginia's pathways and students coming back to complete a standard diploma. Christina asked a question about who is the field. I'm going to assume this is in reference to uh, Christy's comments. Christy, I don't know if you have any clarifiers there.
Sure, yeah, we did focus groups over the summer with some LEA. We did like parent family advocates and LEAs. And we spoke with our state advisory panel on special education around this. Julie Camerata has probably participated in 15 meetings about this at this point. We heard a lot from, we also met specifically with DCPS central office on this too. So we've got a fairly decent cross section. Certainly we did not hit everyone, and we have heard from additional folks around their feedback on this, but we did speak with LEAs, DCPS and charters, parents and families, and advocates on this proposal before we made the proposal.
Thank you so much. Thank you also to Haley. If folks want additional reading or homework, digging into diploma pathways and FAPE. Bridget noted that reducing requirements will increase overall graduation. Well, reducing requirements will increase overall graduation. I think that's also affect, like, will reduce overall graduation requirements. Less math, less science, less community service hours. Remember, there is currently only one diploma option in DC. And she also noted that Winchester City is not Washington, D.C., it's not even close. Industry, by standards of industry, education, and economics. Eleni, thank you so much for being patient. I'm coming to you for the final question or comment here.
Thank you. It's just a follow-up to the question before. So I want to clarify, would you be open to framing it, Christy, as something like an option available to all students? Or are you suggesting OSSE should create an alternative proposal for two different practical studies diplomas?
I think OSSE would be open to considering a recommendation to broaden the student population for which this could be offered. So no, I don't think that we want to create a third diploma option.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess what is the hesitation? Because it seems like people are triggered by it just being for students with IEPs anyhow. So why not just have it as an option?
As an option, yeah. I hear that. I can only speak in terms of like my position is specific to students with disabilities, and I don't want to overcommit around what OSSE's will or won't do. I think making a recommendation back to OSSE around considering the appropriate student population for this is absolutely something that we would consider.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for digging in, because it's dense. We are going to stay on the topic of the Practical Studies Diploma. Haley, I think, is retaking control of the slides. Christy, you are welcome to stay with us, probably encouraged to stay with us. And if possible,
Sure, you can stay for a little while.
thank you. Uh, Screen sharing is coming. All right, so I know we do need to go back to Sally's proposal. I also know and I'm surprised Dr. Jones is not here, but I thought she was going to be here. But um let's finish out the practical studies and then come to Sally. Um there are what we heard from the survey on the practical studies is the following. Common suggestions are waive more requirements for a standard diploma, make count for ACGR. I do want to be clear. This can be interpreted two ways. One, which is to make it count in the numerator and the denominator. Or two would be for it to count in the denominator, which it currently does. Christy, tell me if I'm wrong. So right now, these students are counted as part of the cohort. They are not counted as standard graduates. Therefore, that in theory would disincentivize LEAs from putting students on the practical studies diploma to try to inflate their overall graduation rates.
That is,
If they are counted in the numerator and the denominator, they would actually count towards graduation rates overall. So you could have students on an alternate track, and they would, and students, and yeah, and students and schools and LEAs would get credit for graduating students, the same credit for graduating on an alternate track that they would on a standard track. Lastly, more guidance and disclosure to families. I'm going to ask us to go to the next slide because I know that it's coming. I swear it's coming, y'all. I know that we have one proposal on the table, which Representative Johnson Law and Christina Hansen are going to speak to. It was shared with folks. It is also in the Dropbox link. I'm going to ask before I turn it over to them, just like we did with Bridget. If and so don't quite start the timer yet, Haley. Give me at least till I finish talking. But is there anybody else before we get their 10 minutes? Are there any other alternative proposals around practical studies? Going once. Eleni,
Well, it's just adding that language. Is
which
that what you
language?
mean? Like the
Be
modification
specific.
for all students so that
That
we could
all
include
students would be the
eligible, that it's not just a practical studies diploma for IEPs, that it's a practical studies diploma.
okay.
And anyone who fits the requirements that was listed, because there are so many the SLIFE is like SLIFE students who have had disrupted education. So they're usually over age and they might have had like a 5-year gap of their education and then they come to America, they come to our schools. You get what I mean? And so just having the option to any student who might benefit from it.
Okay. Other modifications or to add to the list. Going once, going twice. In that case, I'm going to the proposal that was submitted. Your 10 minutes starts now.
Thanks, Representative Thompson. Haley, I know you're sharing, but can I have sharing privileges for the moment just to talk through it so everyone can see? Is that okay? I can't hear you. Thank you, Haley. All right, hold on, guys. And
So while LaJoy is pulling this proposal up, just want to give you all a bit of context that we have been in community with a number of people on this task force and other spaces, and trying to look at as many other states as possible, their approach to this, um, what student outcomes have been for alternative methods and whatnot. And so, really looking at as much of that information as possible is what we use to try to help ground us and the dialogue of this task force in grounding us in some of these, in rethinking the practical studies diploma. So, you see it on the screen now, and LaJoy will walk us through it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just going to take you guys down to the recommendations because we only have a couple of minutes. We all know the problems. Again, this was developed in community. This was developed by the things that Christina and I heard through the task force. Also, I want to shout out Julie Camarada, who was one of our subject matter experts. Even though we are presenting, Julie, if you need to come off mute and help give clarification for subject matter expertise, please do so because no offense, I can't see you all. All right, so something that we also heard, and which is in trend, is that why can't something like this be available to all students? Because we have students that are very gifted, and then we have students who do not have a disability. And I'm not going to take you to the tab of the 24-25 statewide assessment data. We're not going to go there today, who also are just furthest from opportunity, who may need assistance. And again, being in Ward 8, I see those students every day. And so one of the things that we suggested was, one, let's not have a non-diploma diploma, but to have a standard diploma that has just a little bit more flexibility. And so when we look at this chart, when we look at the number of credits, basically we took the proposed, and shout out to Julie for the chart, we took the proposed requirements that OSSE has in the recommendations. So everybody should have that. I'm not going to go to that right now, but it's only two recommendations in this one. One is to have a little more flexibility with the mathematics requirement. Now, I know there's some folks who are just like, oh my gosh, we don't need to lower it. We're not trying to lower anything, but we are trying to raise the floor because there are students who are struggling and we want them to have opportunity. Like, we're not going to talk about schools who are graduating students at an 80% rate, but only have like a 1 to 5% math proficiency rate. Like, those things are very real. And so, yes, you'll have your Algebra 1, geometry, flexibility with Algebra 2 to where it's not a requirement. And so this is what Montgomery County does. This is all, there's Appendix A and Appendix B. This is an Appendix A. And the other one was to world language. 2 credits in the same world language, or maybe like, as we talk about like career pathways and technical programming, that this could also, maybe be an internship. And again, maybe this could also be an internship at a bilingual school, like where they're getting real life experience, maybe in a different language, per se. And then I'm coming down to career preparation. I think this is the same, can be substituted for a 0.5 elective credit if the student chooses the career pathway credit option. Again, same thing. It's just a little more flexibility. And again, Montgomery County actually does this. The second one is to allow IEP teams flexibility in the course requirements. I've talked to different LEAs, and there seems to be a lot of confusion here, and that's even with my own child's LEA. Is there flexibility to waive a specific requirement if necessary? Because there are some states who do that. Like, if you just need to, depending on the child's disability and depending on the IEP team. So again, it's Algebra 1, but again, or Algebra 2, substitution with applied math. Spreading the world language credits over multiple years, or again, having the language credit waived based on the IEP team. It also came up about, we're already reducing the community service requirements to 60 hours. But it also came up that, hey, there may be some students who, depending on their disability, maybe they can do 50, or if it's 40, to allow just a little more flexibility for IEP teams to make that decision. And so here, as you can see, if we go with what's already, let's say with what's recommended with the standard diploma as it's proposed just goes through. and there's no flexibility. At least allow IEP teams then for kids with disabilities to do the flexibility, to be able to have the flexibility with their students. That's recommendation 2. I'm not going to go through all these people, all the states. It's in the appendices. Christina, what's my time? I can't see. Can you
I
see?
got you. We're
Yes,
at 3
Lord.
minutes, 45 seconds
Okay.
left.
All right, I gotta hurry up. Recommendation 3, also you should develop guidance that allows LEAs to accept flexible demonstrations of mastery, again, towards a standard diploma. So again, if it's a capstone, like we've been talking about, portfolios, performance tax, work-based, but again, I know we're talking through all of those. These are just different ideas to show that, hey, a child can do something. Learning comes in different ways. It doesn't have to look the same just through a test. Recommendation 4, devote resources to cultivate enabling conditions for successful implementation. Now, I know the law, the Enhanced Special Education Service Amendment Act of 2014, states that transition planning should start at 14 years old, but similar to the example that Christy used earlier, like some people are making decisions about a child back in the 3rd grade. And so when we're talking about high school, I think it may need to even start a little bit earlier. Is it 7th grade? Is it 8th? 6th grade, you're transitioning into middle school. So is it 7th grade? Is it 8th grade? To really talk about, okay, coursework options, the diploma track, the certificate track. We just
I'm going to jump in real quick because our 10 minutes is also for our
any questions too?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
my Lord. Okay, let me hurry up.
So as you are going through this, wonderful people, if you do have questions, please start dropping them in the chat. Start pulling them out that way, and I'll start looking for raised hands. Okay.
Down to your appendix.
Keep going, Joy.
I got you. The citations. All right. Hold on. This one?
Well, no, I mean, you could jump back where you were, but now I'm reading the chat to see if any questions pop up in the chat.
Oh.
We're multitasking.
We're multitasking. Sorry, guys. All right. The last recommendation. Where'd it go? Don't judge me, y'all. No, that's not right. Where'd it go? Oh, the conditions. Yeah. Devote resources to cultivating enabling conditions for successful implementation. We keep talking about implementation. Let me go down here. I read that already. There has to be strong career and post-secondary partnerships, just period. Like we have to do a better job with UDC. We have to do a better job with DOES, RSA, DDS, DOES. Now I know there are things in place already, but there are still many families who are either not getting to the services, they don't know about the services, and I'm just going to be real. There are some students, even though this is the law, they don't have their post-secondary plan, which is what they're supposed to have under the law. Sometimes they don't know exactly where they're going. Sometimes they don't have the resources for RSA or DDS or these other things. And again, some families don't even understand what a diploma versus a certificate track is. Like they don't know.
A reminder, you have 1 minute left for questions.
Let me stop sharing, y'all. Okay. Let me come back.
All right. If you could drop those questions into the chat.
Thank you, Representative Thompson. I see the note now, kindly noting that it was designed to include questions and discussion. Are there any questions? I don't see. Y'all made me go through that whole thing and y'all ain't got no questions. So y'all read the whole thing? Oh, y'all good then. Okay, wait a minute. Julie, I'm gonna give my last 8 seconds to you. Is there anything you want to add?
Thanks for having me. I would just want to reinforce something that you said, LaJoy, is that this proposal is not meant to diminish rigor. I think we all believe that our kids need access to a rigorous education. We just want to create some flexibility so that we can create that access for a larger group of kids.
Exactly. We don't think there needs to be a lesser diploma where we can't guarantee anything. That's not fair to our kiddos who are, well, anyone's child. It doesn't matter if they have opportunity or not. It's just not okay. And Representative Henderson, some of these recommendations seem applicable regardless of the diploma options. Yes, Yvette.
So under recommendation number 2, so I guess by saying allow IEP teams flexibility and course requirements under the standard diploma, which under recommendation number 1, your standard diploma has changed. So it doesn't meet the current one that's now, but also the proposal one that has changed. I'm concerned from an equity standpoint, that as a parent of a child that graduated that had an IEP, I felt like with the IEP services they were able to meet the standard requirements and therefore, graduate and go on to college with that same rigor. I don't know where this proposal allows for that because I don't see a parent's voice or a student's choice in this. I feel like it might be used to put students in a box by saying, okay, you can take these other things instead, and it might be easier for you, and you're going to get a standard diploma. But then when they go on to post-secondary, so when they go to college or even when they get jobs, they may not have the skills needed, and that will set them back to a remedial place. So I just want to make sure that under this proposal that we're clear on what we mean by, IEP teams and how the role of that can put some students in a box just because they have an IEP, and that would actually lessen the rigor of what they might need in their future to be, career and, college and career ready.
Yeah, and I just want to talk to you about equity because your child had an amazing experience. From an equitable standpoint, unfortunately, and Bridget's child had an amazing experience. Oh, I see Bridget. Many of our kids don't. They don't. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. They don't. Because if they were, the State Board of Education would not be getting complaints from the Students Advocate's Office and the Ombudsman's Office. The Parent Training Information Center would not be so overflow, just they're completely overwhelmed with cases of just parents not understanding. And also when we talk about equity, it's not just about kids who have disabilities, it's about kids who fall through the cracks who are also struggling. And they don't have someone or some way to maybe catch them. So they get passed along and they graduate and they do go to college and they do have career and they're not. And as many students have told me, well, I'm in college now taking remedial classes, or I'm at this job and I don't understand, or I'm in this, like how different folks have like a certificate program of some sort for a certain trade, and they are not understanding. Someone said they went to a printing job and they didn't know how to use a ruler.
I want to interject, not because these aren't important thoughts, but for two reasons. One, because I want to remind us that not everything is going to be solved by the grad requirements. There's a very complicated reality in front of us with what is happening across our city. And let's pretend that we could magically get the requirements perfect. And that still would not mean passing these requirements tomorrow would erase all of those realities. And so I want to acknowledge the realities that are important and note that we do have more questions and comments in the chat. We are also running low on time perpetually. I also want to come to Bridget. I want to remind us that it is not that our goal tonight at this moment is to necessarily litigate every point. It is to be able to put the ideas on the table because our hope for this evening was we could get to the end and then be able to vote on have take some of the votes on what we have discussed. Based on the fact that it is 7:40, we still have not got to Sally's proposal. I am just going to go ahead and put out there that that is not likely to completely happen tonight, and we will still end at 8 o'clock. And so, in the spirit of that, I do want to finish the discussion around this. I want to come to Sally, and we may be asking. Uh, okay, thank you, Bridget. But I may be asking. We may be asking for us to revisit on April 23rd to get to a final outcome. Robert and I are probably going to do a little bit of discussion now. If you see me talking, it is because my little sister is sick and I'm just trying to make sure she's okay while I'm facilitating. That does not mean I'm not watching the time of the chat. Okay. And so I'm going to lift up a couple things in the chat for the record. I'm going to come to Sally and I'm going to do my best to encourage ideas and move us along at the same time, if that's okay. All right. So, uh, I saw Robert's comment. Some of these recommendations seem applicable regardless of the diploma options. Uh, Christina responded back, math and world language are the only proposed area for flexibility with standard diploma, I guess, in UL's proposal. Um, Sally noted, would like to ask about world language changes you recommend for the standard diploma. Come on, Sally.
You want me to talk to that, speak to
Yes.
that? Yeah, I was trying to save time. No, I would definitely push against that, even if Montgomery County does that. Students in CTE programs are capable of doing language. I don't see them as one or the other. Chicago had really excellent, and Virginia as well, international career academies where students that were in career programs were also studying Chinese because it makes them so much more marketable. So that's just, I would personally not like to see that. And I can say something at another time. I'll write you a potential option for students with IEPs who may not do world languages, but maybe we can get some kind of a cultural course, because I think the culture, again, there are things that IEP students can do, and if language is difficult, there's still the value of being exposed to the world. So that might be an option. So
Okay.
those are my comments on that.
Thank you, Sally. Uh, Alignment with Montgomery County, integrated math. All right. Bridget, there needs to be more clearly communicated, be a more clearly communicated MOU and authorization for any student to receive a or the practical studies diploma. And I'm looking for any final questions, comments here. I see Bridget got in. I love Sally's cultural competence option. And with that, 10 minutes over. Oh, wait, doesn't Montgomery County have an advanced and standard diploma, whereas DC only has a standard now and is proposing a standard and practical? Is that what recommendation one was alluding to?
I can answer in the chat.
Perfect. I am going to pass the baton back to Representative Henderson. I want to thank everyone for their time and attention. I'm going to, Haley is still, if there are other delayed thoughts, because maybe some of us are faster typers than others. Christy, Sally, I also heard similar feedback about the value of exposure to world cultures and cultural competency for students who can not earn world language credits, okay, in our initial stakeholder engagement. I'm going to pass the baton back to Representative Henderson. He is going to update everyone on our plan for moving forward and give me and my voice a bit of a rest.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Representative Thompson. I'm going to, with apologies, ask Sally if we can postpone her proposal till the 23rd, because I think that we're going to need to move our votes on the practical studies diploma recommendation and the two additional proposals till our next meeting anyway. But we would like to get through some of the items that are already that we've already gotten through and make some decisions so that we have some things to present and get feedback on for our public meeting in April. So Sally, I guess I'm not sure I'm asking for permission, but I'm asking for your forgiveness. Thank you. We will come to it. And then be able to vote on it. So we're going to try to get through as many of these items as we can in a short amount of time. We are going to ask you to use the hand raise function to record votes, and we are going to vote on the modifications as amendments to the recommendation itself, and then we will vote on the recommendation. So we're going to start with this post-secondary plan recommendation, and we will begin by voting on the suggestion to add an annual requirement, add a 10th grade, 10th
Sorry.
grade, yeah, through me, a 10th grade touch point. So first your vote to add a 10th grade touch point. And Sally, if you go to
how the
the,
voting works?
sorry, who's speaking?
Oh, sorry, this is Claire. You said you just do a thumbs up if you vote yes and nothing if you vote no?
A hand raised to vote yes.
Hand raised to vote yes, nothing if you're voting no.
Thumbs up is acceptable too, if that's the reaction you can get to.
Yeah, and Sally, you should have a heart in the bottom of your screen, and if you press on the heart, it should offer a bunch of options for reactions.
And if folks can't figure that out, just give us we gotta move along.
All right, I see.
I see thumbs up, but the thumbs up float, so it's much harder for us to count. So if you can do the hand
do
raise,
the floating one.
Please do that.
All right, so I'm seeing overwhelming support for adding the 10th grade check-in or touch point.
Okay.
I think some of these are like implementation. I better not go there. So if you're in favor of more specifics on implementation requiring conversations versus a software check-in, please raise your hand. So I'm seeing 13 hands now. So that's a majority.
13.
We have a proposal to to require 3 touch points per year with a team of advisors. If you're in favor of that modification, raise your hand. I'm going to lower my hand on that one.
But Representative, this is Claire. That feel more like an implementation thing than something we would vote on as part of grad requirements? That part?
Yeah, I'm struggling with that.
Yeah.
Well, this one would require 3 touch points per year. So instead of the 3 overall, it would require 12.
Oh, I see. Okay, helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm not seeing support for that. So we will not add that. And then to tie this to the career preparation course and make the title more inclusive, post-secondary, college, career, and future opportunity, if you support that.
I'm seeing 10, 11. I'm now seeing 10.
All right, so
Now seeing 9.
Lita has her actual hand up. Do you see that?
thank you, Bridget.
Okay.
Right.
So I think that one was 10.
All right, and we may need to reevaluate this depending on the outcome on the career prep course itself. But now voting as amended, we're now saying 4 post-secondary touch points.
Representative
And
Henderson, before you go on, folks, make sure you lower your hand because, like, if your hand's still raised, then it could be counted for the next thing. So make sure you lower your hand after each one. Okay. Sorry,
I'm
Representative
going to
Henderson.
highlight the ones that passed, the modifications that passed. I believe it's just these two.
okay. So now we are asking if you are in favor of the modified recommendation. So raise your hand if you're in favor.
I'm seeing 13.
Sally, do you have a yes? Sally's up now,
Oh,
14.
yeah, I wasn't quite sure what we were voting on that. This is for the entire thing or is
Yes.
okay.
And we've got Dean Ramamurti as well.
Okay. So I think that's 16.
Yeah, I also wasn't clear, so I added mine. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We have a preliminary recommendation. Yay. All right. Now to the capstone. We have a suggested modification to turn it into an optional credit-bearing course. I don't.
Sorry, are we
I'm
voting on
seeing-
that? Or
Yes.
Sorry, I'm
But is that a
processing this.
graduation requirement to make something optional?
No,
Do
we
you
do
put
not.
that in
Well,
the graduation requirement?
This is essentially making, I guess this is essentially the same as voting no,
Yeah.
but
So-
with the recommendation that they still make it an offering.
But
I
to
think-
include it when they need to create standards, I mean, having it be an option would be new, right? So it would be a partial, be no to required, but yes to including it in the mix. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think for both of these suggested modifications, these are implementation suggestions that we would pass on, or just advice we would pass on. I think somebody speak out if you think this is incorrect, but I believe what we need to do here is just vote up or down on the whether we want to require a capstone project for all students.
Yes,
So
that's going to be my suggestion.
if you would like to say yes, we want to require capstone projects for every student, then raise your hand. For every student. So Sal, you're a yes vote. Voting on the whether it's an endorsement option will come up
Second.
under endorsements. That was for Clara. So we have voted not to recommend the capstone project.
Okay. This one has a little more context. You shared some of these earlier from with additional context from Aussie, but I'll make this full screen so you can see. Hang on.
And can I add something to this one? So one recommendation, just because there was interest in multiple endorsements, I wonder if we could recommend that Aussie establish some sort of regular review process so that they can keep adding or amending the endorsements. And then I also, I personally would really love to see AP, IB, and dual enrollment be separate because somehow the advanced versus CTE feels like an artificial distinction. And I'd rather just name the different options that we're talking about, and AP, IB, and dual enrollment are all, they're different and they have similarities. But I also wouldn't want to create this like advanced versus career divide that I think the current options maybe could be perceived as, if that makes sense.
All right. Thank you. Haley is adding that now. We have about 5 minutes left till 8 o'clock. And so I'm going to say that this is the last recommendation that we're going to be able to get through. If you could bear with us to get through this list of modifications, that would be helpful. And I'm going to take a moment of privilege to say that one thing that I believe is that if we decide to open it up to many more options, that has implementation. So, excuse me, has implications for the earlier questions of making it optional or requiring LEAs to offer. So we'll start with the suggested modification to make it optional for LEAs to offer. So all in favor of making it optional for LEAs to offer, raise your hand.
Robert, I don't know if you shared that context that we got from Aussie, that their proposal does not require LEAs to offer it. They shared that they envisioned LEAs would offer at least one. They did not envision LEAs offering all four, but their proposal does not require LEAs to offer it.
Right. Their intention was that it would be optional.
So then there's no need to vote.
If you want to vote to add that language, I don't know.
Well, sorry, we had a meeting with Aussie to make sure we understood so we could facilitate the meeting better. Aussie is saying that LEAs should, in the way they envision it, every LEA should be able to offer at least one endorsement. But because like right now, pretty much every LEA could offer AP or IB or dual, like as it's designed. It is not designed as required that every LEA will offer all four endorsements. So that was clarifying for me because that was not how I understood it. And I don't know that's how we have been talking about it as a task force. And then so there is a question around if this is the right language to match that intent, right? So are we saying that we are requiring all LEAs to offer an endorsement? Are we saying that we just want to make it optional for LEAs to offer endorsements across? We have all those options, but I am just sharing with you the context from Aussie that we've received.
Minnie, can I ask, so they can require that every LEA offer one, but they can't require that every LEA offer four.
So
or three. I mean, I guess what I'm
can.
trying.
Okay, so when I say can, I mean, do we have the ability to? We have the ability to require whatever we pass, right? Like us, I mean, Aussie could require more, but that is not what they are saying. Not could happen, but that's not what they're saying should happen, because they're looking across the programs and saying that let's say CTE, for example, might require specialized, not just instruction, but equipment that not every LEA will offer. But there are certain endorsements, like the individual one or like the advanced options that they believe currently all LEAs are equipped to offer. And so that is the thought. I do know, I saw someone said they feel like it's too much for 2 minutes. But that is the thought. The language maybe wasn't as clear. That is the thought behind it. But every LEA should be offering at least one, as OCS is envisioning it.
Maybe we could vote on the overall proposal, and then if we don't get to all the modifications, we could do that next time. Just a thought. Like the idea of the endorsements.
Yeah, and that will give us some time to sort through like what is an implementation question, unless someone feels strongly that their yes or no vote is dependent on a modification. So
Yes.
that's my hesitation for that. Sally?
If I might speak, yeah, I think it's just there are too many questions on the table. So I notice in the suggested modification, require OSSI to ensure equitable access to seal of biliteracy, which was a discussion we had at the last meeting. But if it's optional, then that contradicts that. So to me, it's really hard to grapple with all these questions and vote on that just one general recommendation. That's me.
Tanya, you have your hand up.
Did Aussie mention what percent of LEAs currently have no endorsements or have endorsements?
I think so the endorsements don't exist yet, but do you mean like they're offering the equivalent
Yes, they're
of
offering
as
one
an
of these,
endorsement?
right? Yeah, they're offering one of these potential options.
They did not, I don't think. Seal of biliteracy is the only one currently offered. Yes.
Right. What I mean is like if Aussie thinks everyone has the capacity to, it would be really great to know what currently is being offered by LEAs. Is there an LEA that doesn't have any of this? Right? Because they are the ones that are going to need the most support in that requirement. So I think that would be really critical to know.
Okay, right. I do not think that we have an definitive answer to that right now. Unless Representative Thompson objects, I'm going to take the win that we voted on 2 recommendations and take into consideration what we have discussed in the last 5 minutes and reassess these modifications to make sure we have a clear pathway on how to vote for them the next time we meet. And I'm pleased that we were able to vote on the 2. And I think we did have consensus on those things and a lot of support. In the interim, the state board public meeting on April 22nd, we are anticipating a good deal of public comment, as well as a panel to talk about. Oh, Laura, they messed us up. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. We do expect a lot of testimony. So if you are able to watch that or follow up on that, it would be great. And we have a lot that was put on the table in terms of the practical studies diploma and the advanced studies diploma, if I said that the right 3 words there. And Sally, apologies again that we did not get to yours, but we will. So we have more work to do on April 23rd, but I'm pleased with what we were able to do today. Appreciate you all hanging in for 3 hours, and we will be in touch via email in the interim to prepare us as well as we can for the next meeting. Thank you all for being concise and minding the time. If things occur to you in between, please reach out to Haley, Representative Thompson, and myself, and we will do our best to answer and keep us moving forward. We are very thankful for your participation.
We will
Thank you,
take the win.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Good
much.
evening.
Thank you so much. Good job, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Have a good evening.
And Kathy, you were with us the whole time. Okay.
Phew.